just to listen first and try to understand my explanations. And of course, you can communicate with me. So ask me the questions and maybe comment something. So you can communicate with me. And I like when you do it because I feel that you listen to my explanations if you say something or ask something. So how can we fill the array with generated sequences? And also this slide includes lambda expressions. So there are three methods to fill the array with generated sequence. The first is just error. Error means to have a sequence elements inside the array. So it's just simple task to make the array in short way, to use this error. So we don't need to have integer or real, we don't need to tell about it. We just declare some variable a here, it will be the array, and the array will consist these numbers. It's the elements of the array. They also have indexes as each array. So we have index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, 4. I'm sorry, it was 4. I don't know why I put 8. Okay, so it will be 4. And just a short way to have the array. And it out, so we will see these numbers in our output window. Another way to fill the array with generated numbers is the second example. So we can use this rfill method. The first parameter of this method is how many there will be elements of the second parameter. So in the example, you see that we have 555 5 times. So we just generated the array with some number. Here we have 555 number, and we just told how many times there will be inside our array. So if we need to use the same number as the elements of the array, we can use this rfill method. Another way to do something, we can use multiplication. Multiplication means how many times also to repeat some number inside our array. So we have 55 and we have times 4. It means that the first 4 elements will be equal to 55. And then we have plus. It means that we don't finish our array. We are going to continue it. To continue with 77 number. And it will be repeated 6 times. So we have 4 times 55 number and 6 times 77 numbers. So we can use this way to generate the numbers inside our array. Another way to do generated sequence inside our array, we can use rgen method. And here inside it, we see this new for us arrow operator. We can say that it is lambda expression. So here, yes.
Just a question first.
Of course, yeah.
In this example, var number 3, var a assigned to array 55. Yes, here it's not generated number. It's we printed 55 4 times and 77 6 times.
Yes, it's not generated. Yes, it's not generated because we tell what exactly we must set inside our elements. Yes, it's not generated. Yes, thank you. And the next from this place, yes, we have generated numbers. So they will be generated, but by some rule. This rule must be inside this lambda expression. Lambda expression, we have here lambda expression, and it means that the first parameter means that there will be 10 numbers inside our generated array. 10 numbers, and they will start with 0 if we have no any conditions here. So if we have no any third parameter, so it will start with 0. 0, and this rule means that it will be just increasing by 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because we must finish with 9 because 10 elements we have. 10 from 0 means till 9, yes. And the rule we use here, just simple rule, I arrow to I, so it will be just the elements increasing by 1. And if we have another third parameter, it means when we must start. So if we don't have, it will be started with 0. But if we have some number here as a third parameter, so we must start with this number. The same rule we have, the same number of our elements, but we start with 1. Yes, 1 and till 10 here, because there are 10 of them. Another way to do it when we use this condition, so to say, or transformation, lambda expression. So here we have another possibility to put to set our parameters. So the first parameter is always how many numbers there will be. So here we have again 10 numbers. And now we have the second parameter to start with 1. And the third parameter, when we do the rule, so it's complicated rule, not just this one. Yes, it's complicated, a bit complicated. It means that it was, for example, 1. Yes, we start with 1. The next one will be 1 plus 2. So it will be 3. Then we have 3. The next one will be 3 plus 2. It will be 5. And so on. So each time we iterate through numbers and we have the sum of the previous two numbers. Yes. So it's just we call it Fibonacci sequence, as you must know from mathematics. Yes, Fibonacci sequence. So two elements we add together and we have the next one. And we can use this error generator, rgen method, to make this sequence. Okay, the next one is just the same parameters, yes, but the rule is different. So we have 10 numbers again, and we start with 1, but the rule that we must multiply each element by the previous and to have the element. So it means that if we start with 1, the second element will be 1 multiplied by 2, and it will be 2. Then we have 2. 2 times 2 will be 4. Then we have 4. 4 times 2, there will be 8, and so on. And we have 10 numbers inside our array. And the last one, when we have 2 x and y, it means that we must pay attention to 2 elements, not to 1. Here we can have 1 element and to make the next one. But here we need 2 elements. First two elements And we show them, we put them as second parameter and third parameter. It's first two elements. And they will be x and y. So x1 and y is 1. And the next one will be x plus y. So it means 1 plus 1 will be 2. Then we have 1 is x, 2 is y, and 1 plus 2 will be 3. Then we have 2 is x, 3 is y, 2 plus 3 will be 5, and so on. So we have a rule, but we use two elements, two first elements. And then the next element will be just will be made of some rule with these two elements. And we have 10 elements inside it because we have the first parameter equals to 10. So here we must put how many numbers there will be, first element, second element, and the rule for these two elements. Okay, so we call this arrow operator, we call it lambda expression. And usually it is from the mathematics. Yes, we have it in programming, but it's not so so often. But in mathematics, there is a special topic to have these lambda expressions. Okay, is it clear, this generating? Yes, so we have arrow generator when we use this arrow operator. We have just array to make some sequences from our numbers, given numbers. Array fill also to have the same numbers and how many times we will repeat them. And just array to make our declaration and initialization of our array is short, to make it short way. Okay, do you have the questions here? No questions, yes. So we can continue here. And here is some syntax. So syntax of gen method. And as you saw in the previous slide, there are different counts of parameters, different number of parameters. So the most simplest, the simplest way to use it when we have two parameters. And you can see that count is first, how many numbers there will be, and some rule to make each next number, to make it from the previous number. And when we have three parameters, when we have one parameter to start with, the third and the fourth. So we just have this syntax for the same as we had in this slide. So it was the examples, and here we see the syntax. Yes, so it is the same, but it is the syntax of this of those examples on the previous slide. Okay, and now I'll just skip this because we need to have more topic. What else we must know about the array? So when we need to input to enter the numbers to store them inside the array, we can use this read R integer, and 5 means how many elements there will be inside this array. So it means that we will enter these 5 numbers, 5 integers. We must enter them to use our keyboard to enter them. So there will be 5 of them, and they will be stored inside this array. And the same we have with real type. Yes, read R real means that the compiler will wait from us to enter 5 real numbers. and to store them inside a variable. So we can use this. If we have integer, we must use the first one. If we have real array of real type, we must use the second. Okay, and also we can use generated array, just randomly generated, without any rules, just randomly generated. And we can use this random integer function. 10 means how many numbers there will be, how many numbers. And if we have another...
Can't I just use random?
Random, you can use random inside the loop. Yes, we can do it as we did it. So you can do just, yes, you can use just random if you use for loop. Yes, for loop to iterate through the elements of the array, and to have a of I is set to some random range. Yes, you can use, but it is better to use this one. Okay. It's just easier.
Shouldn't it be 9 too?
What?
Shouldn't be array random integer 9 because it starts from 0 to 9?
No, here it's another. It means that there will be 10 of them, 10 generated numbers, but the range will be from 0 to 99 Just it's programmed to have this range, but we can change it. If we put here not only 10, we put 10, for example, 1 and 9. 10 means that it will be there will be 10 numbers inside a array, and we generate starting from 1 and finishing to 9. So it will be the range from 1 to 9, the range for generating numbers. Okay, is it clear? So if we don't have these parameters, it will be this range. If we have this parameter, so it will be the range as we set it here. So we will try in some examples, because you need to try it, yes, to understand. Okay, so you can use it in each your task. You can use this way, not to enter the numbers or not to set some values to the array elements. Yes, it is better to use this random integer generator and just to print. Don't forget to print a, because if compiler generates something, we need to see what was generated there. Yes, so we ought to print this array after this statement. Okay, so it was about randomly generated array. And one more thing, not one, but another. Okay, so here we I want you to understand how to use this params keyword. It gives us possibility to have a varying number of parameters. So usually when we look at this main program, so it is the main program, and here we have the function, some function. And here we see that we try to call some function, and here we have this function, and we understand that this function sums something, adds some elements of the array, and usually we must have an exact number of parameters, particular number of parameters. If we have 2 parameters, we need to put always in each our call, we need to put 2 parameters, to set 2 parameters, not more. If we have 3 parameters, we need to have 3 parameters always when we call this function. But if we use as a parameter inside this parameter parentheses, we use this params keyword, it means that the number of parameters may be different, just the different number of parameters, and it is very convenient to use this params keyword, because in this example we have in first call we have first call of the function, and here we have 3 parameters, and when we pass them, so compiler sees that here we have params, which means that it can be different number of parameters, so it is okay, and it will be array of these numbers, and it just calculates the sum of these elements. So we have for each loop, and x we have in this array, so it means that it will iterate through this array, iterate through these numbers. So first will be 1, and we have 0 plus 1, 0 plus 1. The second iteration we will have here 3, and it will be 1 plus 3, and the second it will be 5, and we will have 4 plus 5, and it will be 9. So result will return 9 here, yes. And we have the second call, and here we have another number of parameters. So if we don't use these params, if we would not use this, it would be the error. If we didn't use, it would be the error, yes, because the different number of parameters, it's not good, so it's not right for this function. And only when we have this params keyword, it is allowed to have varying numbers of parameters. So here it is okay, so it will be the same. There will be the calculation of the sum of these elements. And it will be returned some result here, and we will see it in our window, output window. So you should use, and you ought to use this params keyword inside your task when you do it. But one more thing here to know for you is that if we have some of the parameters, maybe we need to pass some more parameters. Maybe we need to pass some counter or something like this. So params keyword must be the second or the last. So it must be the last inside our parentheses. So if we have something here, for example, count also, to count something and to return it to our, so we must put it first and then params. Params must be the last. Okay, is it clear? No questions? Yes, we can continue. Okay, so here inside this, on this slide, we see a new procedure, SetLength procedure. It is just a standard procedure. It is programmed already in Pascal ABC.NET. And why can we use it? Why do we use it? So this procedure or this function allocates the necessary memory to contain the array elements. For example, here we have some array, and we have only 4 elements inside this array. 4 elements. But maybe we need to make more elements just to use this SetLength. Here we said that we say to compiler that inside this array there will be 6 elements, 6, not 4, but 6. And when this line will be executed, we will have 2 extra cells in our memory with 0 elements. So compiler sets 0. Then we will just print it out, and we will see these numbers with 0 to zeros, 2 last zeros. And let's look at the example how to use it just with propose, with some to save some problem, for example, to solve some problem. Here we have the problem. Fill array B with positive numbers of array A. So it means that we have some array A, example is here, and we have numbers, 10 numbers here inside this array. They are positive numbers and negative numbers, and we must take only positive numbers from this array and to save them, to store them inside B array. So we must have as a result B array and only positive numbers there inside this array. 9, 9, 7, skip this -3, skip 0, but 0 is positive too, but okay, we don't have it here. So without any, with minus, yes. So each positive number we have in our B array. And the problem is that the length of A array we know, but the length of B array, it can be different, and it depends on the numbers of the A array. So we can't just understand before we know these elements. We don't know how many elements there will be in B array. And we can use this SetLength operator, SetLength procedure. How can we use it? Let's look at this function. This function, it makes it just have this B array. So the parameter is A array because we need it to be passed from our main program. So A array will be passed in here, and the function will return new array. New array, it will be B array. The function will return it, but first we need to do something to find the positive numbers from the elements of the array and to store them in B array. So first we must declare the B array. We must declare it. So we say that it will be new integer array, and how many elements there will be. First we put just a.length. It means that first we need to say how many elements there will be, and we say that there will be so many elements as A array has. The same number, yes. Then we have some counter J, and we set it to 0. And then we have the for loop. What we have here inside this for loop. So we iterate through the elements of A array. We iterate, so we check each element from 0 index till 9 index, because the last element will have index number 9 index 9th. So it will be 9 here, from 0 to 9. And we check if A of I is greater than 0. So we must set it to B of J. So we have this line, B of J, it will be the zeros. In the first repetition of the loop, it will be zeros. And we set it to first positive element. So it will be 9 here. Then we must increase J because we need the next element, not 0, but the first one. So we must increase it. And again, we take the second element of I and the third and so on. So we check each element. If it is positive, we will set it to, we set B of the next element of B to this element and increase J. After this loop, when we finish it, so we will have some elements inside B, some elements. How many elements there will be? We can judge about it by this J counter, because it counted how many elements there inside B. So we can use this SetLength method to set exact length for our B array. If we don't use it, we have what we have if we don't use this SetLength. It will be some result. Yes, it will be. So we will see 9, the same. We will see 9, 9, 7, 1, 1, and then we will see 0, 0, 0, 0, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and one more 0. But we don't need to have them. So we need to use SetLength to cut them. Yes, just we don't need, we set length to J. J means how many elements there inside this B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there will be. And then we will return this B to our program. So the program will have this B array and it will print it out. So here we will see this array. So SetLength procedure is needed to have just exact numbers of the elements of the array. And this is example how to use it. Is it clear? I think yes.
Yes.
Or no?
It's a bit difficult. Okay. You have to take our time to read through.
What do you take time to understand it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we will have one task to have this SetLength, and I think you try to do it and looking at this example, yes, and to understand.
I have a question. Can you explain the for loop again? Like how it works? The for loop of this task.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain how it works? Yeah.
How does it work?
I said, can you explain again?
I don't understand, Tony. So before loop, what?
He wants you to explain it again, ma'am.
To play it again?
To explain it again.
To explain.
Yeah.
Explain. Okay. I'm sorry. I just sometimes I don't understand what you tell. Your pronunciation is good, but my understanding is bad.
I don't understand Tony too, ma'am. No problem.
Okay. So let's look at this example. We have a array, yes, and we have these numbers. So when we call our function here, we call this function. So the compiler goes here and it generated some array. So it will be generated here. Yes, it will be generated. But we have here 5. It's not correct because here we have 10 of them. 10. Starting with in the range of -5 to 10. So we have the example of them. Just let's imagine that these numbers were generated, yes, -1, 9, 9, 7, -3, 0, and so on. So they were generated in this line. Then we just them out here, yes, to see them on our console window or output window, and we will see these numbers. And then next line, we call this function. So we have some message in our output window, and then we call this function. So in this place, compiler goes to our function. It sees that we have here make our function, and we pass in this array to this array. And by the way, we use here params. It means that we can use not 10, but 20, for example, or maybe something else. So we don't need to say how many elements there will be inside this array. But it's not the point for us just now. So we pass this array. Inside this array, we have the same array we generated. And what we are going to do here, the first line of this function, it is the declaration of B, because we need to have B array, yes, and we need to have their positive numbers from A array. And we must declare it. We always must declare something, yes, we are going to have in our program. So here we are going to have B array, we must declare it. And here we have new integer. It means that it will be new array of integer type, and inside the square brackets, we must put the length of this array. So how many numbers there will be. But we don't know, because we don't know what was generated there, and we don't need to know it. It must be programmed. Yes. So we can say that the maximum elements inside this array will be the same number as A array has the same number of the elements. Yes, the maximum, it will be the more, so 10 elements there will be if all of them are positive. So we put here 10. It will be 10 because 10 elements inside this A array. Then we must have some counter to iterate through B array, because we can't use the same counter to iterate. We iterating over A array. We can't use it because A array has a number of elements. B array will have another number of elements, and we can't use the same I counter to iterate over a B array. So we need to have another counter, and we call it J, and we set it to 0 because always we start with 0 index of element, and we set it to 0. Then we have the loop to iterate over A array. And we must say that we start with 0 index of elements, and we finish with the 9th. So A length will be 10 minus 1 will be 9th, because the last element is 9th element. We must check each element of I to understand if it is positive. So if it is positive, we must set this number, we must assign this number to B array. So inside this loop, we have a condition, if statement, to check if A of I means it will be 0th, then it will be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and so on. So I will be iterated through 0 to 9. And we check each element if it is positive. So we must assign this element to B, starting with 0 index. J is 0, as you remember. And at the same time, we must increase J because we need the next element. The next, when we meet positive element, it will be the next, it will be 9. Yes, the 0th for B, it was 9, this one, and the second 9 will be the second for B array. So we check it is positive, yes, and B of first, B of 1, will be set to 9. And again, we must increase to have second, so not second, but B of 2, B of 2 next, yes. The next, we have 7, it is also positive. So we have B of 2 is set to 7. And increase J, it will be B of 3. The next one, it will be -3 will not good for us because the condition will be false. 0 is also not good for us, the condition will be false. This one -2 also will be not here. And we have 1. 1 is positive. So the condition is true, and we have B of 3 set to 1. And again, we increase J, so it will be B of 4. Then we have B of 4 is equals to 1, and we stop. And J will be equals to 4 or 5 it will be, because increased by 1. It will be 5, and the loop was over because we checked each element, every element, everything, and we set the length to our B. We set it to 5 because we have 5 elements, and J is equal to 5. So we have 5 here, and using this set length, we don't have this zeroed, because first we have 10 elements, yes, and they were zeros. Everything was 0. But we don't need extra zeros here. And we use this J to set exact particular this length to this B array. And we just return it. Result means we return this B array. It is array of integer. We have it here. It will be returned to our main program here, and it will be printed out here with this message, result of function array B, and then we have these numbers, this array B. Is it clear, Tony?
Yes.
Okay, so we can move on, yeah. We skip it one more time because I need to explain you something more. And here we have some things, some theory. How is memory used when we use the array? For example, we have a array, and we have these numbers inside it. And as you see, we can use different ways to declare and to initialize our array. Yes, in the previous we had another way. We have error random integer, so randomly generated. Here we have just array of integer, and we set some elements, some values to our elements. We have 3 elements. And then we use another variable, B, it will be array, and we want to have the same elements as in A. So we set it to A. Or we can say that A array will be assigned to B array. So inside B, we have the same numbers as we had in A array. But if we look at the memory location, we will see that A array has its own 4 cells, yes, and we store them these numbers. But when we use this assignment, it means that B is not another array. No, it's just a reference to this array, to A array. So it's just the same location in our memory if we use this assignment. So we have the same location. What does it mean? Let's look below in this example. So it is the same, but we have here B of 2 set to 1. Set to 1. So we are going to change B, but if we print out A, we will see that it was changed. The second element was changed. It was 5, and we set it to 1. But we did it for B. But A has also changed because B is the same as A. And when we set it to 1, it means that we change A to. And it is not convenient. It is not what we wanted to see. And how to do it another way? How to do it just to copy this A to B and to have another memory for B. How to do it? We can use copy method. So we can't assign A. We can assign, but it is not good. So we can copy it, and it means that it will be another location for B array. And if we set it to 1, set second element to 1, we change only B array, and we don't change, we don't touch this A array. A array is the same as it was before. Okay, so if you want to copy some array to another array, you should use this copy function or copy method. Okay, is it clear? I think yes. Yes. Just okay. Just to use this copy method.
I have a question for that.
Okay, Tony.
You said B2 is equals to 1. Are we counting from the right, the index, or cause? Okay, 0. Okay, 1 index is 0.
So here we have 0 index,
okay.
1, yeah, and 2. So if we set B of 2 is set to 1, it means that this one will be changed. Yes, okay. Because we start with 0. Work with arrays. And this theme, this topic is standard procedures and methods. So we have some methods and some procedures to work with arrays. We have them inside syntax. So they are included to syntax, and we don't need to understand how does they work. But as the programmers, we are the programmers, so we need to understand how does they work. So we will discuss the work of some procedures to deal with the arrays. So the first one is reverse procedure. Reverse procedure. Let's look at this part of code we have here. So it's the main program, and we see that we have the array, and it was generated. Yes, generated of 10 numbers. So we have 10 numbers here. And the example of generated numbers here. We printed them out, and then we use the standard procedure. It called reverse. Reverse, so it means that we rearrange the elements inside our array from the end to the beginning. So as a result, we have this array, and with rearranged elements. Yes, so you must understand that we start from the end and we finish with the beginning. Yes, so we reverse them. And we don't need, really, we don't need to use some code instead of this. So we must use only this procedure and that's all. And compiler will do everything by itself. But as the programmers, we must understand how does it work inside the syntax. So we must understand the code of this reverse procedure. And look at this example here, at this figure. So how does it work? For example, we have these indexes of the elements from 0 to 9. And the compiler takes the first elements with 0 index, and it just swap it with the last one. Then it takes the second and swap it with the before the last. Yes, and so on. It does it, and it must. The last element it will take and it will swap, it will be just middle element or before middle. Because if we have even number of elements, it will stop before the middle. So the fourth element it will be, the fifth, yes? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth by index. And it will be the last swapping. So we must iterate these actions, this swapping, till we have the middle of the array or before the middle, if the number of the array is even. If we have odd number, for example, till 8, so we will need 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we will need do it this, swap, 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 and one number just without swapping. Yes, so we don't need to take this number. How to do it? How to repeat these actions and not to touch this middle number, or to have, if we have even elements, number of elements, so to have the last before the middle. So let's look at this procedure. We have it here, the code. It calls reverse, as you know already. Yes, reverse. And we have T. It means that it will be generic type. So any type we want, we can use here. It may be integer type, it may be real type, it may be even string type. So we can use here anything. And we have the array of T also, so any type of array. And N is the length of the array. If we have 10 elements, so there will be 10 of them. 10 of them. Then we have the loop. It starts from at 0 because we need 0 index to have it. Yes, 0 index and 1, then 2. And how long we are going to repeat it? N div 2 minus 1. So it's the same. Minus 1, it is not to touch this middle element if we have odd number of elements. So this rule is just for even elements and for odd too. So if we have 10 elements, so it will be 10 div 2 will be 5 and minus 1 will be 4. So we have here 4. And here we need to stop. It will be the last swapping. And if we have, for example, 9 numbers, it will be 9 div 2. It will be 9 div 2, it will be 4, yes, and minus 1 will be 3. So 3 is the last element to swap. So this rule is just for any number of our elements. And here inside this loop, we use a swap function to change the elements. The first element will be changed with the last one. Look here, it is the last element. So I, if we have zeros, so the first repetition, it will be 0 here, yes. And here we will have 10 instead of n. 10 minus 0 will be 10, and minus 1 will be 9. So we have 9th element by index. 0th element will be changed with 9th element. The next repetition, I will be equals to 1. So this element must be changed with 8. Yes, 8th. So how can we do it? N minus 1. So 10 minus 1 will be 9, and minus 1, it will be 8. So we will swap it. This one with this one. And again until we have this 4. I will be equal to 4. And it will be last swapping. So this is the code how this reverse procedure works. And we don't need to do it. We don't need to type it in our tasks and programs because it is already programmed. But we need to understand it. We must understand it. How does it work? And now we look through it just for you to understand how does it work. And to remember that you can use this reverse procedure, to use it in your program, just without this piece of code, without it. Just reverse, and what we are going to reverse, the array is here, and it's all. And the compiler do this code itself. Okay, so it's the first procedure we must know and we must use sometimes in our tasks. The second procedure, and even some of them, it's not procedures, it's methods. They are methods. So we have index of method, last index of method, and contains method. So sometimes we need to find something inside our array, some number, to understand if this number exists among the numbers of the array. And we can use one of these methods. Index of means that this method will return the index of a number, of some number, which will be x, inside a array. So x will be searched among the elements of a array, and if it will be found, so this index of method will return the index of this element inside a array. So it means if we have some array, for example, a is equal to some array, for example, let's take 1, 2, 5, 3, 0. So 5 elements we have. It's our array, for example. And we are going to find x, and x is equals to 5, just as an example. So index of will search among these numbers, these 5, and it will find it, and it will return 0, 1, 2. 2, it's the index of this number among the elements of this array. So this will return 2 for this array, and if we search for 5. Okay, last index of. It's a bit another situation, it's a bit another case. So let's add some elements here. For example, we have some more elements. We have, for example, again 2 and 1 and 7. And we are going to find, again, we are going to find not 5, we are going to find 2. To find 2. X is 2. Last index, as you understand, I hope, it will return the index of last number 2. We have 2 of them, here 2 and here 2. So last index of it means that it will be searched from the end to the beginning, and it will find these 2 and it will return the index of these 2. So it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will return 5. It's what about this last indexed of? And contains X. It's another function, but it will return just true or false. If the array contains of X, so it will return true. If it doesn't contain X, it will return false, and that's all. And we don't need to use, of course, this code, this piece of code. It's just for you, again, to understand how does this method works, index of. How is it programmed inside the Pascal ABC.NET? Let's look at this code. So we have the name, index of, and again, the parameter is array of any type. T means any type, so array can be real, of real type, or of integers. It doesn't matter because we set here to T. And we have X, what we are going to find, the number we are going to find here. Yes, it will be X, and again, it is of any type. Function will return integer, so it will return index of that element which will be found. Or it can return -1 if this element will not be found. If this X will not be found, it will return -1. So first we set result to -1. And then we have the for loop to iterate through the elements of this array and to check if A of I is equals to X. So if it is equals, so result will be I because it will be index of this element. For example, if we try to find 2, so first repetition, I will be 0. 0, it is 1. Yes, 1. It has 0 index. So A of I is not equals to 2. Yes, because 1 is not equals to 2. So we are going to have another repetition. The second repetition, we will have I equals to 1. And then we check if A of I is equals to X, and yes, it is equals to X. So result will be I, so result will be 1. 1, it is the index of this element. Yes, and we have break. Break means break out of this loop. We don't need to look for, because we have found it. We don't need to look at it anymore. So we have a break, and that's all. The function will return this index. So this is how this index of method programmed. Okay, so you can use these methods in your programs to find something, to find some X inside your elements of your array. And next one, just a bit different. we have some condition. We try to find some elements using some condition. And inside this piece of code, we have the example. So we have some array. It was generated, random generated, and it has 5 elements here. Yes, they were generated. We see them, these elements. And we have print a dot find last index. Find last index is the method which needs to have this parameter, to have some rule to find something by rule. So it means that A must be odd. So we must output the last index of odd element among A elements. So it will try to find, try to check if 13 is odd. Yes, it is odd, but we must find the last one. Yes. So try to find if 53 is odd. Yes, it's odd, but another one, 15 is also odd. 73 is odd. And the last one is not odd, but we need the odd element. So it will return this index of this number 73. So the index of this number will be 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will return 3. So we must we must set here some condition. Some condition to check what exact we need. And here is again the simple of the code, not simple, just how does it look like this find index function. Find index, yes, it's find index by some rule. So with condition, we have here array, and we have some condition, and it is Boolean type. Boolean type means logical, so it must be true or false. And here we check true or false. Odd A means if it was odd, it will return true. Yes. So the condition must be Boolean type. And we have again result -1. In that case, if this condition is always be false, so we will not find anything. So result will be -1, but here we have the loop. And again, we are going to iterate over the array. And look here, we can use not length, but high. Yes, in the previous slide, we used length. So length means the number of elements, and we did -1. But if we use the high, it's the same, but we don't need -1 because it's the high is by indexes. So we don't need to put here -1. The same, but we don't need to put -1. So you can use high instead of length. And we try to understand if this condition is true for the element. If it is true, so we have this result as a result. We have this index as a result, and we break out of our function. And that's all. And condition must be anything we want. It must be, for example, a arrow operator, and for example, a is greater than 0. So this one can be condition, yes, and any condition we want, just logical type, Boolean type. Okay, so these two methods, find index condition and find last index condition. So again, we can search from the beginning and from the end. So it's the difference between them. Okay, and the next, one more example of function, but this function we create for us, just its function, user's function, not standard function, but user's function. It's just the example for you, how can you create this function by yourself, just to do it yourself without any procedures and methods. And let's look at this example too. So we have the main program, and we have here the array. It was generated in the range from 0 to 9, yes, and it will be 10 elements there. And we print it out, and then we call this function. We call this function with two parameters. The first parameter is a array, and the second is 2. I don't know what is 2. Let's look what does it mean. So 2, it will be instead of x, and a, it will be the array, some numbers, 10 numbers, and x is 2. And we have here n is equals to a dot length, so it means it will be 10 here. N is set to 10. Then we have var I equals to 0, it will be the counter, and we use here not for loop, but we use while loop. While I is less than n, so it means that we are going to increase I up to the 10. So, and while it is less than n, we are going to repeat our loop. And one more condition we have, while the element is not equals to x, and x is 2, we have, yes, 2. So we try to find 2 among the elements of our array. Number 2, we try to find it. And if it is not equals to 2, so we must just increase the iterator, this counter. So if we have some numbers, for example, array will be equals to 1, 3, 5, 4, 2, 6, and so on. Just try to imagine that we have this array. So the first, this number 1 will be checked, and I will be 0, the first repetition of the loop, and this condition is true because 0 is less than 10, and a of I, it means 1, the value of this element 1. It is not equals to 2. So we are going to increase I will be 1. The next repetition we have 1 here. 1 is less than n, yes. And this element 3 is not equals to x. No, it's yes or no. How? No, it's not equals to x, so it's not the same. So we are going to increase I by 1, it will be 2. Then we have 5. 5 is not equals to 2. We increase 1 by 1 again, and we will have 3 inside I. I is less than n, and a of I is not equals to 4, is not equals to 2. And again we increase, and we have 4, and a of 4 is equals to 2. So we stop our loop, and we have this line, result is equals to, and look here, we haven't use this ternary operator. So it's very popular among programmers, but we haven't used it yet, as I remember. What does it mean? I think Kasim does know, because he used web programming, and it is very popular there. So we have some condition. Condition is before this before this question mark. Yes, before the question mark, it is the condition. If I is equals to n. If it is true, if this condition is true, we assign this value after the question mark. We assign it to result. So if I is equals to n, but we have I 4 and n 10, so it is not equals. And if it is not equals, else. Else means this colon sign, it's else. So else we must assign I to result. We must assign I to result. So a result will be 4. 4. And 4, it is the index. 4, it is the index of this number, which was which coincides to our search number. So here is a new statement for you, new operator, ternary operator. Let's look at it again. So we assign something to result. What we must assign? We have the condition, so we must check it. If I is equals to n, it is the condition. But here can be any condition we want. Then, after this quotation, or not quotation, after this question mark, we have something to assign if this condition is true. So -1 will be assigned if this condition is true. And I will be assigned if the condition is false. So we have question mark and colon mark. Question mark is like then if condition is true, then, and colon mark like else clause. Else, and this one if this condition is false. So we call it ternary operator because we have condition and 2 operators. So ternary operator. Okay, and this is how the index of v function works, and it is just a user's function. So you can do it in your programs. Just as an example of how to search something inside the array. So you can use this function too, but you need to type this code. But if you don't want to type this code, you can use this method, find index or find last index. So here we don't need to use some code, yes, to use some function. Just okay, so it's about this algorithm. And one more. Okay, one more, it's transformation. We can use the function or method transform to have some transformation, to change the elements of our array by using some rule again. And again, we can use here lambda function or arrow operator. For example, we have here this example, a dot transform x, that is x multiplied by x. So it means that all the array A, all the elements of this array will be transformed by this rule. So if we have, for example, 3, 2, 5, 0, 1, for example, inside A, So it will be 9, 4, 25, 0, and 1. Because the rule is x times x. It means that each element will be squared. And in this example here, we have a bit another example, so it is more complicated. Let's look at it. So we have A, and then we have again ternary operator. So this, all of this is ternary operator. So each element of our array will be decreased by 1 or increased by 1 using this rule. So if A or if element is even, it will be decreased by 1. But if it is not even, it means that it will be odd. So it will be increased by 1. So this rule we have, yes. So if for this example, for this array, 4 is even, so it must be decreased by 1, and we have 3. 36 is even, so it must be decreased by 1, it will be 35. 93 is odd, so it must be increased by 1, and it will be 94. And again, even we have, it will be decreased by 1, and odd we have, it will be increased by 1, and it will be 30. So it was transformed using this rule. So it's for transformation, and this method transform. Okay, presentations, and you can use them inside your tasks. So we have some more, but they are just the examples how to use some another methods. For example, here we have the method bin, elem, and index, and here we use it. Okay, and I don't know if we must look at it, or maybe just to give you the tasks and that's all. No, we must look at it. Okay, another one more method. It is count method. We can count something by condition also. So another method with condition. And the same rule, we must put here some rule to count how many elements which will have true for this rule. For example, we have here odd elements, and we must count odd elements among our array, and how many of them. It will be 91, 47, and 35. So it will be 3 elements, and it will return 3. So how many elements which will be under this rule? So it's about count, and how can we find minimal element and its index? Let's look at these two solutions. We have two solutions to do it. The first one and the second one, they are equal for compiler, but you can choose the best way to do it for you in our tasks. Let's look at the first solution. We have here first solution, and we have some function which will take the array, and it will return a real number and integer number. real number means that it will be the element, the value of the element, and integer, it will be the index of this element. So we must find minimal value of the array and its index, and we must return both these numbers. And here we do it inside this function. So minimum, it will be the element, so we must assign it to a of 0, because the first element will be minimum just before the for loop. And min int, it means minimal index, the index of minimal element. It will be 0, index 0. And inside the for loop, we must iterate through this array from 1 to before the last, to the last. From 1, because we don't need to check zeros. Zeros, it's minimum. And starting from 1, we check if the first element is less than minimum, so minimum will be this element, and the minimal index will be the index of this element. And we are going to do it, to repeat it. Oh, it's somebody has a microphone. Okay, I will do it by myself. Okay, so now it's off. So this function will return the minimum element, the minimum value, and the index of this minimum. And another function, almost the same. We have again array, and we have we must return the value of the array element of minimal element and the index of minimum element. And we have again minimum, but the value for this minimum, it's some big number as we did it. So minimum we must assign to some big number. And minimum index will be 0 again. And now we must start with 0, because we don't have 0th element assigned to minimum. We have some big number assigned to minimum. So we need to set 0 here. And all the same is, all the rest is the same. Just the same as we had it before here. Yes, the same, just we start with 0. So you can use one of these solutions in your tasks, and you ought to do this task number 8, but not now. I think we are going to finish now.